This is the liquid cooling series from Cooler Master. It just keeps getting better. The second generation of the Atmos has arrived. This is a good one, and is also a fun one. Welcome to Machines More. I have right here a new AIO liquid cooling solution from Cooler Master. Many of you have seen, or maybe you used the original Atmos. I also reviewed the Stealth version before, which is your more performance-oriented edition of the Atmos series. In general, this has been a series that combines performance, customizability, and compatibility. The V2 takes it the next step further. So in this review, I'll give you an overview of this unit. We'll chat about performance, and I'll also show you some of the appearance options. And then we'll discuss whether this unit may make sense for you. Real quick, big thanks to Cooler Master for sending the review samples. One thing is that the accessories in this kit aren't likely to be what ends up included in the retail versions. And I'll discuss a little bit about the retail packaging towards the end of the video here. I'm also not paid by them for this review, so you can always expect clear, objective, and well-researched reviews on the channel here. If you enjoy this type of content, I'd appreciate if you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. For Atmos 2 here, I've got the 240 and 360 units. I primarily tested the 240. Depending on your location, you may see different availability. As I am told, in North America, it's likely that the 360 will be your only option. The original Atmos featured a pump cover with a customizable 3D printed insert. The most flashy change with V2 is the pump cover option. Gone is the insert option. At Computex and CES, you might have seen they showed a pixel display, that's what this one is. There's also a regular LCD display, and there's your more typical infinity mirror, and then there's also like a solid cover one, so some light can come through in this one. And finally, there's a VRM fan version, and we'll discuss about the merits on this shortly. The inserts do clip on magnetically, and they sit atop this translucent RGB equipped base. So if you end up getting more than one cover option, you could just swap them out pretty easily. For the displays, there is a USB-C port, which connects to your board's USB 2.0 header with an included cable. The braided tubing would look like it's thicker compared to the previous version. So they've embedded the pump cabling under the sleeve, which then tees to the fan cable at the radiator end. This can be a more integrated look. Also, the sleeve is a little bit looser, so it gives the appearance of being thicker. The fans are still 120mm ARGB equipped single float edge. However, instead of single fans, it is now a 2-fan or a 3-fan plate that is pre-mounted. The fans are 25mm thick, and the radiator unit, it looks to be the same as the Atmos and Atmos Stealth, which is 27mm thick. So the rad plus fan dimensions, they're going to be similar to the V1, but the pump is an improvement. Still a copper cold plate, and it's a short base that houses their latest dual chamber pump design. This entire ensemble has been shrunk down. With the thinnest solid inserts, the height is only about 39mm. Okay, and that's lower than it was before, which was about 53mm. If you end up using the display, you'll end up at 49mm or so, which is still very compact. The tallest assembly is going to be the VRM fan, and that comes out to be roughly 59mm tall. If you are looking to use it in an SFF build like the FormD T1 V2, where having a thinner pump would allow for a thicker GPU, then yeah, I think this will be great for that. And when it comes to compatibility, Cooler Master has improved on this front, right? You got a thin rad, standard fans, thin pump, love it. I mentioned the revised cabling. So the pump cable is sleeved, right? And it connects to the fan cable that then runs directly out of this fan plate, and this cable is not sleeved though, and that ends up with 2 4-pin terminals, and one's for your pump, one's for your cooler fans, and then there's this one 3-pin ARGB cable which will deliver the lighting to both fans and the pump base if you want it. So this cabling change is kind of a mixed bag. For those of you that are using the stock fans, it can be cleaner and less cable mess. You do still have this unsleeved cable, right? On the other hand, if you choose to swap fans, you still need this cable to run your pump, but then you're going to have an unused end at the radiator where it would have plugged into the fan plate, and then you have this end here that would have connected to a fan header, right? Because you can't just unsleeve this and then disconnect it and then connect the pump separately. And you will still have to run a set of fan cables to your replacement fans, just be aware of that. For the mounting hardware, we are now on a slightly different system. Instead of doing different mounting bars at the pump block for Intel versus AMD, the bars that come pre-mounted are for standard Intel, and in order to mount to AM4 or AM5, you will need to use an adapter set that basically converts the AM5 or AM4 cooler mount to the square mount here. Another feature is an optional offset for 𝐢𝐺𝐜𝐴1851. So some of you may have seen this concept used with other brands such as 𝐢𝐳𝐜𝐫𝐞𝐝 LF3 Pro. In essence, the cold plate mounting is shifted upwards on the socket to better position over the hotspot of the Arrow Lake CPU, and this can improve the thermal performance. In my testing, I ran the 240 unit with the 1851 offset brackets. You can just swap out the original ones. They are asymmetrical though, so it works by elongating the bottom bracket, and then it's going to push up the block upwards. So these are north and south specific, so while you can put north and south on either end of the pump, and then just make sure that you always orient the north block on the top, you do lose two orientations this way. So you have to either have the elbows on the RAM side or on the motherboard IO side. But overall, it's quite a compact footprint. You should be able to get it to fit. One thing I do appreciate about the Atmos units is that even on a board with tight spacing like the Asus Strix Z890-i that I tested with, it fits well even when using the offset bracket. So unlike a unit such as the LF3 Pro, which was very tricky on this board. In fact, it would not fit without removing some of the components, but the LF3 Pro is also tricky on ITX boards in general. Tested in the NR200 with a side mount radiator, 285K here, roughly 240 watts for the CPU render. The unit performs very well. These are noise normalized results at different noise intervals, at the lower noise interval. I was very impressed. The Atmos II goes toe-to-toe with the Arctic Liquid Freezer 3 Pro, which is also using that 𝐢𝐺𝐴1851 offset bracket. Second noise level is slightly louder here. Atmos II still performing very well. The amazing thing is it is competitive here than the LF3 Pro with a thicker radiator. Last noise normalized level is still very close. From this, my assessment is that the noise equal performance between these two units is essentially the same. I was curious about this offset, so I ran a test here with the block in the regular, the non-offset position, and there is apparently a bit of a benefit, but only about degrees. So I think the bulk of the improvements over V1 are coming from the improved pump and the cold plate. So just to test that, it's better than the Atmos Stealth, which is also a very solid performer, and I was curious what the actual gap from the revised pump and cold plate assembly was, since I know for a fact that the Mobius fans that come with the Stealth are better than the SickleFlow Edge. So I swapped these fans over to compare versus the Atmos Stealth results, and running a test in the non-offset position compared to the Atmos Stealth, the performance gets even better. It's downright incredible here. In order to remove a variable, I tested without the 1851 offset. So do consider that this would have been even better if I had used those brackets. So if they do decide to do a version with the Mobius fans, then I think that will be a game changer model. These guys only go to 2200 RPM at max. So there isn't much more performance that you can squeeze out, and that's where the 3000 RPM fans on the Arctic do give it an edge at the expense of a lot of added noise. But in my opinion, running at that level of noise is not really a practical thing to do on a regular basis. So as mentioned, there is a VRM fan version. If you are airflow starved over the board, this can help to simulate that. I have moved the rad and fans away from the side mount, and testing with and without the cooling insert, I do think it's quite effective. If you just compare the temps with and without the fan. But at the level I ran the VRM fan at, it did not add to the noise too much. So while any of those temps don't really concern me, it is something that you could consider if you are airflow starved, but then you will not be able to run the display options in lieu of that VRM fan. Speaking of noise, just a fan noise sample for your consideration. Get some pump noise here. This fan's off. The EIO pump is at 100%. %. This is 80%. So this new pump assembly is very quiet. It's very difficult to capture the true noise from this unit, which I ran at 100% the whole time because you couldn't really hear it. It's going to be difficult to hear over the cooler fans. So I like the Atmos II. It's great. Other than the performance, another element that I liked was the use of recycled materials in the box. And it's got user-friendly packaging. Everything is well labeled. And a first-time builder could be comfortable installing one of these. As you can see, it performs fine even with a 285K, but I think for most builds the 240 should be good enough. For SFF builds where the thinner rad and the standard fans as well as the thinner pump, this will be a really good unit. I think this will be great for a user that prioritizes convenience, performance, and also you want to add a little bit of flair to your system or personality with the displays. I did have a few hiccups that I will mention. The display connection was a little bit finicky. So for the pixel display, this included cable worked fine, but the regular LCD didn't work consistently with this included cable. It didn't actually click in tightly, and I had to use a different USB cable to the rear I/O to see the display. The Master Plus software is still a little bit buggy. The display relies on that, so the stability of that software is important. When I used it, I did get more than a few crashes, which turned blank to a white screen quite a bit, so not reliable there. As you can see with the pixel display, the marquee text, there's a little bit of a jumpy result. I'm not sure what's going on there. So do be aware if you're going for the display options, things may not be as smooth as you want it to be. Hope they do fine tune this a little bit ahead of the retail launch. So I did want to wrap up the review by discussing how Cooler Master is going to package these at launch, which is going to vary by geography. The latest info that I have is retail availability will be very soon, and the inventory should be at retailers or some retailers already. Colors will come in black and white. You will have to choose between these solid inserts, or the LCD display, or the pixel display, or the VRM fan pump covers. In other words, all of these are going to be separate versions at launch, although they do eventually plan on offering this as a set of different items that you can attach to the pump block. So if you went with one and then later on you want to switch it up, then I think that's going to be a kit that you can get. Certain regions such as the US will only get the 360mm with the display options at 220 or the VRM fan at 170. I was told the pricing still tentative though. So I think the pricing is okay. For example, Lian Li's GA2 LCD 360 is $235 or so lately. Cooler Master's own Master Liquid Ion runs more than this one. So if you are after a display equipped unit, I think the cost is reasonable. In other regions, you will have the option of 240 or 360 and also the standard solid inserts, but not all SKUs will be available globally. So unfortunately, given how useful I think this 240 could be for a lot of SFF builders, for me it's kind of a bummer that not all regions can get it. But overall, it's a great unit, compact dimensions, stellar performance, great for a lot of builders that prioritize those things. And to top it off, if you want something that you can personalize and make it yours, this guy, it's the ticket. So hope you enjoy this review. If so, please give a like and make sure you are subscribed. I will go ahead and add links when it is retail available. And a big thanks for watching today.